This is the original Firefighter Podcast, where we talk about anything you would talk about at the firehouse kitchen table. And sometimes we even talk about fighting fires. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Let's get into the show. And welcome back to the original Firefighter Podcast. I am your host, Will Peterson, and Aaron Bybee's in the studio with us as well. We're going to have a great show. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing really well.
Good. Yeah. Good. Hey, we crushed it last week with our Halloween episode.
Not only the episode, but the shorts too, man.
Yes, wow. I want to say I was shocked, right? But at the same time, I have to make a shout out to our good friend Phil Nedved. He put a lot of time, work, and effort into that episode. We also want to thank our special guest that was on that show, Chris Perello from the Rockford Fire Department. Thank you so much for being on the show. And again, just the effort that went into that episode, it really did help us to just have a great week on the original Firefighter Podcast and on all of our platforms, including our socials. So thanks a lot for watching and listening, and keep in tune with us, because we're going to keep trying to make good content anytime we're engaging with our audience.
Apparently this was not a unique situation. We had lots of firefighters that chimed in with similar stories, similar paranormal activity going on in their firehouses, and accompanying situations that would freak you out, man. But apparently firefighters like scary stories. That's what it boils down to. They like being a little scared.
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing is that, like, one of the things about firehouses themselves is that so many of them across the country are very old. And, they just have natural creaks and, things that just kind of go bump in the night, and you don't know why. And there's like gremlins, throughout the fire stations. There's gremlins in the fire trucks too, that make the trucks do weird shit. And so, I mean, I think when things like that happen, and then when you start to get around the spooky season, and you can kind of tie it all together, and not to mention the fact that we do see a lot of weird, crazy things out there in the street. So, anytime you're out in the middle of the night with low lighting and crazy people, it could be zombie apocalypse anytime.
You got to think some of those old firehouses, like in Boston, would for sure be haunted.
Yeah, for sure. And that firehouse that was referred to back in Rockford, Illinois, I mean, that is an old firehouse. It's and it really does exist. It lived right there by Camp Grant, and all the things that went on in that episode. They're not stretching the truth there. So they're doing a great job, or they did a great job with that episode. We really appreciate that. So thank you, Phil and Chris. Also, we just want to do some more shout outs back to the area of Rockford, Illinois. A couple things that are happening in the last couple of weeks. There was a 6-alarm wildland fire on the northwest side of Rockford. It brought 6 alarms. It brought over 100 firefighters. I am sure that the Rockford Fire Department, along with their neighboring departments, did a great job. It looks like this went on for several hours. It sounds like they had a pretty robust incident command structure, and it needed a lot of assistance and help to get that under control. Certainly not something that is an everyday occurrence back that area. I'm very familiar, and I can say that I can count on maybe 2 fingers how many wildland fires I had in the entire 28 years I was there. And then just to see them out there fighting that kind of fire, I'm sure that was challenging. So great job on their part. Also, just want to also think about that overnight, this morning, about around 2 o'clock this morning, Central Time in Beloit, Wisconsin, there was a firefighter injured in a duplex fire. There was a Mayday called. It sounds like he's been treated and released. But, the fact that, we want to wish him well and his injuries, make sure that, he gets back to the job good and safe. But anytime that a Mayday is called on the fire scene, I've been on the receiving end of that radio transmission, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all when these Maydays are called. And so it really strikes home to, back to the point that we have to be ready for that at all times, day or night. 2 o'clock in the morning is about the worst time for a Mayday to have to happen, if there's ever a good time, which there's not. But anytime middle of the night when we're already fatigued and stressed, we've been going on a lot of other calls throughout the day, and then all of a sudden you just get to that moment and bam, a Mayday and a situation has changed on you dramatically and making firefighters have to retreat, have a firefighter, be injured or trapped. It can be very chaotic, and it needs to be practiced often, whether that's your incident command team and all the way down to your company level training. You have to be engaged with Maydays and the potential for the fireground to change very quickly and dramatically. So just wishing the Beloit Fire Department the best, and that firefighter that was injured. Also, what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to be talking about when the heat is on. So I've got a couple of segments I'm going to go through. We're going to talk about another Mayday incident that just occurred last week in New Jersey. There was a flashover event with multiple Maydays at that fire. Also, the after-action report has come out of the Massachusetts assisted living fire. I think that is something that is going to make the entire country take note of what is going on in our assisted living facilities, and every fire department should be looking at those things. We're going to look at the ongoing government shutdown. We're not going to spend too much time on that, but we're going to touch on it. We're in 5 weeks of this shutdown going on, and for certain, we have people on the front line that are starting to really feel the pinch and the pain. And then we're just going to wrap up with a couple fun things at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. But as we get into it, we're going to talk about these 10 New Jersey firefighters. They were hurt last Tuesday. This was in Hillsdale, New Jersey. This came in at around 3:30 a.m. last Tuesday morning. This began as an exterior deck fire from reports. And then there was a flashover event, and speaking again from some experience of seeing this happen, and firefighters caught in a flashover event. We did a segment, or we did a whole episode actually called a whole episode on the original Firefighter Podcast called Anatomy of a Church Fire Mayday, and you can find that in our go to our YouTube channel, and you can find that episode. It's a quite lengthy one. We had all the individuals that were caught in that flashover during that incident, and so it's very taxing when you listen to the accounts of these firefighters that get trapped in a flashover phenomenon. And again, these things don't happen all the time. They may happen very frequently, as a whole across the country. And for certain, there's flashover potential at many fires that firefighters go to across the country. Certainly there in the department that I worked for, we went to a lot of fires, and certainly we were always arriving at that really close time where all the conditions were right for a flashover to occur. And really it could have gone one way or the other. It just kind of depended on which actions that we took and what tactics we approached with. And sometimes when you're just kind of, and again, this isn't a critique of what happened here, because I don't know exactly what happened in New Jersey, but anytime that we're looking at what happened with the flashover situation, examining, what was leading up to, what were the signs and symptoms, what was leading up to that moment, was there anything that could have been avoided, could have been averted? Those are all things that come out of after-action reports and post-incident critiques, such of that nature. But the flashover situation, that is a real thing. It's out there. We have to be mindful of it. Firefighters are constantly arriving at that perfect kind of the, looking down the barrel of a gun kind of moment where, is this fire going to go one way or is it going to go the other way? And if it goes the other way, meaning towards that flashover potential, usually a lot of times it's because we have missed something. It's, maybe we should have darkened, or we should have cooled the environment. We should have read the smoke differently, or we should have explored, done 360s surveys and really, honed our skills in and tried to really understand what this fire is doing. And that can be hard to articulate if you're just talking about it. It's very much easier on the fireground to illustrate that and to practice for that. But going through the real deal and hearing Maydays being called out over a radio, it can be very stressful for everyone involved. Certainly at the command post, when you hear that, it's like an all hands stop. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't mean that we're not going to go after and go search and rescue for that down firefighter or that endangered firefighters. But what it is, it definitely is going to be a stop of where are we at in this incident, who is in danger, what have we, who's missing, what do we need to be tracking and accounting for? And that should be already happening ahead of any flashover or any missing firefighter for that matter. We should always be tracking and keeping accountability of our firefighters on the scene. That should always be happening at the command post. That is the job of the incident commander and the safety officer to make sure that we're tracking our firefighters. As soon as they become in danger, we have to make sure that we understand the situation. And, and anytime these things have happened, whether a flashover has occurred, there's been a sudden building collapse, sudden, rapid growth, a fire growth that's happened for some reason. So whenever this kind of thing has happened, we have to recognize that not only do we have a problem facing us right away with a lost, endangered firefighter, we also have to look at the fact that the building has probably become even more compromised than what it was prior to that Mayday. So that's a really good time for us to be doing another read on this building in and of itself, and making sure that that building is still sound and structurally okay for firefighters to either go in, try to make that rescue, or evaluate what's going to be the best way to make our way in. It might have to be a tunneling situation to get into a firefighter that's trapped. These firefighters in New Jersey, it looks like at the end of the day, they were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. That's just a lot of firefighters to all of a sudden be, kind of sucked into a Mayday of, 10 firefighters is just that's a lot of firefighters, that are all of a sudden a part of a Mayday situation. And to account for that many firefighters that are hurt or trapped, endangered, low on air, whatever might have happened, that just means that you have to have that many more firefighters ready to go that can assist. Not to mention the fact that so many of those firefighters on the scene are probably already wrapped up in doing some other task or critical function. So, most often the case, these firefighters with these fire scenes will stand up a RIT or a RIC, whichever way you want to call it, Rapid Intervention Team, Rapid Intervention Crew. Call it what you like. It's a standby crew that firefighters are supposed to be dedicated and ready to save firefighters when they are themselves in danger. So imagine, if you will, all of a sudden 10 firefighters are trapped or injured, low on air, needing help, needing rescue, whatever that case is. Imagine, what do you do in your own department? Do you have 2 firefighters on standby, 3, 4 firefighters on standby within a RIC or a RIT group? The end of the day, it probably isn't enough. Let's be honest about that. In a situation that I had 3 firefighters that were hurt, and admittedly, we just did not have enough firefighters that could just fundamentally be dedicated to that many firefighters working on the fireground and ready to go into action in case someone was injured or hurt. So at the end of the day, that's what comes up against the staff and the rank and file, the force of the firefighters themselves on any department. And that's why so many times, lots of departments, and I know myself, we, call out and say we are understaffed. Most often this is the case, that our departments are very much understaffed. And that's a message that we can't ever let up off the gas pedal on that. I know for a fact that we've got NFPA standards that call out that 4 firefighters on a truck. That means engine, ladder. There are different case scenarios that NFPA recognizes. This is everything from a single family dwelling all the way up to high-rise buildings, and different types of fires and incidents and calls that firefighters go on that call for even greater amounts of firefighters to respond. And also to do it within a certain amount of time, and to be able to do it with a certain amount of resources. And I get it. I can already, somewhat hear the audience kind of crying out going, well, yeah, but who's meeting all these NFPA standards and who's actually following all that? And I get it. You're absolutely right that it's not happening. And so many, the problem that I have with that is that so many municipalities know that they're getting away with that. That really, at the end of the day, it comes back down to, I've heard it a million times. If you have 2 firefighters in a clown car, they're going to figure out how to put your fire out. And that's really what is it's almost like we're our own worst enemy, because firefighters they're not going to not do their job. They're going to do the job. And like I said, there could be 2 firefighters in a pickup truck, and they're going to figure out how to get it done. The problem is that what we're really doing is grossly violating and putting so many of those people in danger and risking their lives, their limbs, their health, and that sort of thing. So it really does come back to these, municipalities I don't care for how small, how big your city is. Public safety is number one. Number one, it is public safety when it comes to that budget. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong on that. And this goes to show. I've already, we kind of launched off at the beginning of the show. Like, when would I have ever thought that the department I previously worked for was going to go to a 6-alarm wildland fire? Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. It doesn't happen that frequently, but so many other things do. The hazards exist. The car accidents are every day. The dumpster fires are every day. The garbage truck fires are every day. Rockford, Illinois just had one of those burning up in the middle of their streets, and it was impressive. I mean, it was a hell.
Yeah, that was intense.
Do we have a video of that?
Yeah, we do. Here, let me
do we have a video of this? Let's take a look at this garbage fire that's going on.
While I'm pulling that up, know too that wildland fire here in Rockford, that was right up against a school campus too, an elementary and middle school campus. It's combined.
Yeah.
So they were on it as quickly as they could be, and
absolutely
saved a lot of trouble there. Here we go, Rockford garbage truck fire.
Yeah,
look at that.
Yeah, and that's an intense fire. I mean, those are the kind of ones that make that makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck. This thing is ripping and roaring, and it's not just and you can hear that's a compressed gas fire that's ventilating there. You can hear the hissing of those LP tanks and propane tanks or whatever it's being driven by there. But anyways, at the end of the day, I don't fault that some of the commentary coming out of this flashover fire coming out of New Jersey, hurting these 10 firefighters. It's almost immediately it's talked about how the departments are understaffed, that the tactical problems are things like when a water supply fails. It sounds like there might have been a water supply that fails here.
Ask. They had a brief water supply fail, which is why they called Mayday to pull them back. But how often does that happen? I mean, because we're hearing about that happening more often. Is that something that you've run into before, or is that?
There can always be a problem, an issue with water supply. In fact, there's often the case there is a problem with water supply. Lots of these systems, the grid systems, and the water systems themselves, they're old, they're dated. It's tough to keep up with keeping up with the maintenance and the routine maintenance that needs to go into these water supply systems, to include the fire hydrants themselves. And we're going to maybe touch on that a little bit here towards the end, because I got something kind of lined up for that. Stay tuned for what I'm going to address later. But
even as a civilian, Rob and I, we rode along with you, and that structure fire that we went to, 2 hydrants weren't working. There was no water, and that was new to me. I was like, wow, man, like, is this what's going on here? Like, how? Like, we pay enough taxes, the water should be there.
Right. The water, and really at the end of the day, that is what we need to continue to do on the Original Firefighter Podcast show, is at least continue to illustrate that so often the firefighters are undermined, and basic needs like water is undermined, because it really takes 2 critical things for most fires to go out: the firefighters, and for them to have water. If you got 2 of those things, you're doing pretty good. But if one of those sucks or fails, man, you got problems. You got big problems. So it's, again, not a shock to see these types of things be called out, and have these things happen when bailouts and fast withdrawal from a structure is needed. Because of a flashover phenomenon, a backdraft, a smoke explosion, a sudden partial collapse, a full collapse, floors giving way. I mean, there's lots of, you can go on and on. There's a bucket list of hazards that firefighters have to be accountable for, and they have to be ready to pivot at a moment's notice when things go the wrong way. Down power lines. I mean, that in and of itself, just makes me very nervous, and they're all the time. I mean, you have these live down power lines, and firefighters are just expected to continue operating while these power lines are literally arcing and bouncing and frying the ground. But hey, that's why we do love the job, is we like some of that excitement as well. But we have to be ready for it. That's for sure. So, the takeaway here, we kind of jumped off with all these different incidents that were going on. We just really want to call out that if you're, listening and viewing our show, take it serious. Take time for yourself to think about how you would call a mayday for yourself. How would you call for a mayday for others? What would you expect yourself to be able to do if you were having to self-rescue yourself? Would you be able to do that? What would you do if you were a part of a RIT team? Can you carry your weight? If you're a part of a 3-person, 4-person RIT team, that's either going to be 33% of the workload is on you or 25% of the workload is on you, but can you carry your weight? Can you do your job and do it and answer the call? So that's, just a challenge if you want to take it for what it's worth.
This episode is brought to you by Strike the Box Cigars, Pipes, and Tobacco. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado or just starting your journey into the world of fine tobacco, Strike the Box has what you need. From the finest cigars to premium loose leaf tobacco, Strike the Box delivers on quality in a welcoming space where you can enjoy a smoke and good company. Additionally, Strike the Box specializes in vintage pipe restoration. We're talking estate pipes brought back to life with craftsmanship that borders on art. Got Grandpa's old briar gathering dust? Let the crew at Strike the Box make it smoke like new. Check out their full list of vintage pipes for sale at striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois. Soak in the aroma and talk shop with real tobacco lovers from the American Fire Service. Strike the Box, where fire, flavor, and tradition meet. Again, that's striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois.
That's going to make me swing over here to the Massachusetts assisted living facility fire that occurred back on July 13th, 14th of 2025. This did happen out in Fall River, Massachusetts. Fall River is a medium-sized apartment, few firehouses. And they were able to, basically it was an all hands working fire at this Gabriel House assisted living facility in Fall River, Massachusetts. When I took a look at and the reason that I'm bringing this up in this episode is because the after action report has come out. It's a 27-page document. I took some time over this past week to look at that document. And, there's some good stuff to really to not only extract from that document itself, but also if you want to swing over to YouTube, there's some really amazing video out there of the Fall River firefighters just making amazing rescues, and not to overlook the fact that also the police departments, the police officers were also making many rescues and doing it with, with almost no personal protection at all. And there can be some, talk about that in and of itself. But I think at this situation here, they had to do it. Like, it was almost like if everybody was not working and putting hands on people in that assisted living facility, they would have had more fatalities. So you have to really give it out to the Fall River Fire Department, Police Department, and those who made those rescues back in July. They saved, it looks to me like they maybe saved more than 50 lives out of that fire. They did lose 10 residents, most of those to smoke inhalation. And that's a big takeaway from the report is that, there was serious heavy fire. There was also serious heavy smoke conditions. One of the things that stood out in the report was that they did talk about the fire sprinkler system and that it did activate. There's some reporting that there may have not been an immediate sprinkler activation in the fire origin area. Which it looks like that was due to malfunctioning oxygen concentrator or smoky materials coming together, which is often the case in these assisted living facilities. If it really was coming down to not to play arson or fire investigator here, but if it comes down to smoky materials with oxygen machinery at assisted living facilities, it never goes well. I've seen a couple of those where that burn victim is just terrible around the face, and they usually do not make it. But in this situation here, the sprinkler system, it did activate. they do report in their report that they did not immediately supply to that sprinkler system, but that they did account for that. It was activated, it was working, it was doing an adequate job. But at the end of the day, they had to choose, or they decided to choose that it was going to be an all hands rescue fire where everybody was just working to get people out. And so you can understand that, you know, there's going to be some tasks that may not get taken care of at a particular time or at all, and at least until everybody can be accounted for and saved or rescued or removed from the immediate danger. But take a look at it. You know, make sure if you're wanting to really understand, you know, what went on with this particular fire, take a look at that action after report. It's an easy read. It's and again, the YouTube videos are amazing. And if you're over there, you might as well just click on Original Firefighter and subscribe to our channel anyways. We want to thank the subscribers that have done that already for us. We appreciate you. And so the lessons learned coming out of that, I'm just looking at that report right now. But something I want to make a comment on is that assisted living facilities, you know, if you think about it, those individuals that are in that type of facility, we all know that they are most likely incapacitated in some way. They have trouble with mobility, they have trouble hearing, seeing, and so they are going to need a lot of assistance. And that's just as one of the things is that, you know, for every one elderly person needing rescue, it's going to probably take you know, more than just one firefighter to accomplish that task. So if you come from a small department and you don't have a ton of backup coming, you know, you're just going to be, you know, gassed and fatigued and doing a lot of that either on your own or maybe with one other person within your organization. The smoke travel, you know, that's another big problem in these facilities. They don't always have smoke compartmentation. They don't have activated fire doors that can close automatically, and also, you know, smoke handling systems that can either shut down or you know, confine to an area. Certainly, with I think that most firefighters would agree that in cases of this nature, we would much rather protect in place, and there is obviously a time and a way to do that, rather than try to evacuate all these people from a facility. But in this particular case, in this particular fire, that is exactly what had to happen. This was not a, you know, you can move to a different wing and protect the residents in a different wing and protect them in place. This was, again, an all-hands rescue fire that they had to get everybody out of the building. One of the things that it did trigger for, you know, something that we're doing in our areas, we're just taking a look at all of our assisted living homes. I think that that's pretty, you know, when these things happen across the country, you know, for example, this became a state-ordered emergency review of all 273 assisted living residents in the state of Massachusetts for sprinkler coverage and evacuation protocols. And it's pretty understandable why the state of Massachusetts would execute that order. I think that any state would do that, and I think that every state should do that when those types of things occur. And so I think that at the end of the day, we just really want to encourage that if you have that ability to review your assisted living facilities in your area, that you should attempt to do so and make that happen. But good job out there in Fall River, Massachusetts. Great job, you guys. Good job making all those rescues. With that said, let's make our way over to the government shutdown. We're in week 5. Week 5. It's going to go down in it's going to potentially go down in history as the longest government shutdown. And you already beat me to the punch. I've thought about that. I've thought about I mean, there are some problems. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
for sure.
I'm not,
and stuff's
there are some problems.
Chipping away pretty soon.
Yeah, there's going to be a little domino effect. But I do think, to your point, I think what you're kind of underlying saying there is that I think there is a little bit of takeaway if you're just the average everyday person living in the United States of America, doing your life, doing your job, doing the best that you can to live a good life. Am I really sad that the government is shut down? I don't think I am. It's not, I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, the conservative political position is less government, right?
Sure.
It is really hard to negotiate that change once you're so, once you're so far in bed with the government. It's really awkward to break up with them, It's like
couldn't have said it better myself.
It's gonna hurt for a little bit. But yeah, we'll see where things go. It feels like a game of chicken right now. I don't know how much of this is like a game of chicken and how much of it is conservatives being like, well, as long as it's shut down, we're kind of getting what we wanted. So we'll just wait it out. I noticed even the White House has a shutdown clock tracker on their site now. Yeah. So you can just watch the seconds that and this is in quote, I'm quoting whitehouse.gov, number of seconds Democrats have shut down the government.
Yep. But then Chuck Schumer steps up to the podium, and I see what they do there. It's like this little, dog and pony show where you got Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer standing side by side, and on the podium it says, Trump's shut down. So,
right, totally.
We're certainly going to go back and forth and play ping pong like we've been doing.
All the finger pointing.
But, this isn't to take away. I mean, I want to be clear. We know that here at Original Firefighter, we know that there are people that truly need assistance.
For sure.
And there's people that need a helping hand up. We do believe, I would say that it's not going to be hard to figure out that our stance is, we just don't think it should last for your entire life. And, there are people who are truly disabled and they need that assistance for the rest of their life. But anybody out there that's taking advantage of the system, milking the system or whatever, you're just a drag on the entire population. And I do think that it should be kind of, well, there's two things that I take from this. And I was kind of wondering about this. Why was it that we were able, when I say we, why was the government able to identify essential workers during the COVID shutdown, but we can't identify the essential workers during a government shutdown and take care of them? I just don't quite get, I don't get that, like, we know that we need air traffic controllers. I mean, like, they are literally the traffic stoplights in the sky.
I think the difference is we had a passed budget. So we had the money to be discretionary with, right? And in this situation, we're sitting without an approved budget. So technically, we don't have money to disperse to the essential worker.
Don't we, though?
It's never stopped the government from printing more money in the past.
Exactly. Exactly. So I get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the steps that are taken to pass a budget and things of that nature. But I also know that we are a country that relies on emergency contingencies, and this has got to rise to that. If it was going to be a 5-day shutdown, I don't know exactly the timeline, but when you're in week 5 and the airlines are starting to stack up and the air traffic controllers are just like, they're not either working or they're there, but there's been a call out, it sounds like.
I just heard they said they're not going to fire air traffic controllers that don't show up for work while they're not being paid.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, there are definitely going to be consequences to operating with less government funding, less government oversight. Like, there just will be.
Yeah.
My hope is that we get back to those that, have needs for help, getting help. My hope is that we get back to, those that are essential and first responders and air traffic controllers and anybody who is serving our communities well and is funded by the government gets back to having a paycheck and getting back to work.
Right now we've
don't know what that's going to look like, but.
Yeah, right now, just to call out some of the numbers, we've got 11,000 or plus air traffic controllers that are receiving zero paychecks right now. That's wrong. They should be paid. They're working and they're keeping people safe. And that's my point. That's my point, is that you can literally point to that group of people and go, they are working and they are keeping the public safe. And one mishap, And there's been, I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the show this year, actually. We started laughing at how often we were talking about, air incidents happening in America. And it's been a lot this year. And we know that. I mean, and we really have to look back to, a lot of this began back with that airline that collided with the helicopter outside of DC, which, I mean, if you just go back to that as being sort of the first bookmark, first bookend, and then where we're at today, and the things that have already occurred in 2025 when it comes to air disasters, and the fact that we have these air traffic controllers that are coming into work, they're not getting paid, and they are fundamentally doing things that if they get it wrong, really, really bad things happen. Many, many lives can be lost in an instant. And so I hope that they can hear this through a lot of pipelines, that we care about air traffic controllers and their safety. We care about the flying public safety for sure. I'm one of them. That being said, also there's roughly 900,000 federal employees that have been furloughed, and another 2 million working without pay. And that's according to Reuters. And so we just, again, it's time for both sides get into the room and stop jerking each other around.
Yeah, get it done. Come on,
get it done. Call your congressman, write a letter, call your congressman, send an email, do whatever you can. Put pressure on these people that we elect to those offices to do their job and stop playing politics with each other, with people's lives. With that said, I got a problem with Governor Gavin Newsom.
Here we go.
Yeah, I really do. I've kind of decided that if I'm going to take a stand on this show, I'm going to point the finger at him. And we've already done our best to beat up on Mayor Bass. She did LA no good service, and she continues not to. But Governor Newsom, going on, this is what caught my attention. Was yesterday I saw him on Meet the Press. And the only reason why I'm calling this out on a firefighting show is this. So Governor Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and we can pretty much say safely that California saw the worst fire conflagration this year, and historically speaking, in that state. A terrible response, a terrible outcome, with just hundreds of thousands of structures lost, lives lost, and literally fire hydrants and a water grid system that had no water in it. And we've said this on many times in this show. How does that happen? How does that happen? I mean, I could maybe understand if this, was some backwoods area that nobody visits or tracks back to, and there, there's no water in the pond. But in LA County, LA City, the Palisades, Malibu, there's no water in the fucking fire hydrants, okay? And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, what does he do? He turns around and he starts a podcast, right? And there's plenty of footage to see that he goes and he visits the burned out areas, and he's standing in the streets, and he's got the cameras and the media all in his face, and he's pointing his fingers outward going, this didn't work, and that didn't work, and that person, they didn't do their job, but none of the fingers come back at him. He's not pointing any of those fingers back at him like, hey, I kind of dropped the ball, and taking no accountability whatsoever. He literally goes on Meet the Press yesterday doing this interview, and he's got this, he does this thing with he's like, when he's going to talk about something, he's got this fist pump.
He's got the cha-cha-cha.
He's got the cha-cha-cha. And when he's going to assert his thoughts, he's doing the forward, and he's got the two-hand fist going, like that. And he's putting it out there, and he's bringing it back. And I tell you what, if you want to see someone that he imitates so well, it's former governor who went to become president, is Bill Clinton. He literally looks like Bill Clinton giving the same interview with the same little fist thing, because you never want to point.
Just
in
give
politics.
him a saxophone,
just give him a saxophone, give him some maracas, and he would do really well in a steel drum band. But so here's what he does: he goes on Meet the Press, gives this interview, And he literally says that he's criticizing Donald Trump. He's criticizing him for basically everything that Trump does. Newsflash there, who isn't? But he literally uses the phrase, "Hey, I'm ready to fight fire with fire." And I about spit my coffee out. I'm like, did you really just say that?
You fight fire with water. Where's the water?
Where's the water? Maybe you should say, I'm ready to fight fire with water. No. He says, I'm going to fight fire with fire. And I thought to myself, Governor Gavin Newsom, that's one phrase that you just might not want to adopt. If you're running for president, which everybody knows that you are, and you were asked on Meet the Press if you're going to run, and you're like, no, I'm not going to, it's not even top of mind. I'm not even thinking about it. Bullshit. You're running, and you know it.
I'd like to hear, I know that we've been kind of following this story a little bit. I'd like to hear from any LAFD firefighters that feel compelled to share their opinion on the new chief that's been assigned, as well as the reassignment of former Chief Crowley. I'm just curious. I don't know them personally. I'd like to hear from the source. What are your thoughts
we welcome
on
all
this
comments.
change?
Yeah, bring your comments and leave it. You can also email us at info@originalfirefighter.com. You can leave a message on any of our social platforms. We do check them, and periodically we do respond to some of them, and we appreciate the engagement very much. We really appreciate that. Yeah.
This episode of the Original Firefighter Podcast is sponsored by Castle Contracting. Castle Contracting offers commercial and residential restoration, leading the industry in roofing, residential siding, gutters and downspouts, egress window installation, storm damage assessment and repair, and solar energy, saving you money and time. If you want to be treated like royalty, contact Castle Contracting to schedule a free inspection. Call them at 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. That's 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. Serving Illinois, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, Castle Contracting has you covered. Your home is your castle. Call Castle Contracting today.
I've got some comments here that I'd like to go through and get your reaction to them.
Do it. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, like Will said, occasionally we go through and kind of pull comments from the different platforms. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere that you consume your media, we're there. So comment and you may get read. So we recently released the Frighteners and the Firefighter last week.
Yes.
And I'm gonna butcher all of these names, so sorry guys. At Braden Cullen 8320 on YouTube, he commented, "Great timing to come across this while laying in bed at the station." That's a good way. I mean, turn off the lights, kick on some scary fire stories while you're working your shift. I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah. The good thing about the great thing about that comment is that, having been in several of the firehouse bunks, nowadays, when I got in the fire service, we were still we were literally sleeping in a bunk room, big wide open room, 8 beds, single beds, not bunk beds, but they called it the bunk room. And you would, you'd be at the mercy of laying there and just hearing the loudest, snoring firefighter and just going, oh my God, this sucks. Can I go put a pillow over that guy's face and smother him? And the problem is that there'd be like 3 or 4 of them that would be it would just sound like just big chainsaws going on, in the room. And so there you go.
That's brutal for everybody else.
That's scary in
those
itself,
guys they've got to be like, I don't care, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah. So there'd be nothing could be worse than listening and watching that episode, Frighteners and the Firefighter, while listening to a bunch of firefighters snoring like chainsaws in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this next comment comes again from YouTube. This was in response to our fire truck delays cost lives video. At Harrison CF88A. Any chance companies could get Australian or European trucks? They are generally cheaper. Cheaper does not necessarily mean less expensive. And have a fast manufacturer turnaround. What's your thoughts on that, Will?
Well, we're called Original Firefighter for a reason. We like tradition. we value the steep tradition of the fire service in the United States of America. And so if you want those types of things, I can tell you, you can get on a plane and go across the pond and you'll find plenty of your European stupid helmets and yellow fire trucks. Stupid.
Yellow trucks, green trucks. Some of them don't even look like trucks. They look like Amazon delivery vans or something. Okay.
We appreciate the comment, though.
This next comment comes from @DavidCorbell8794. This is on YouTube in response to our Devil's Night episode. He says, "Hey, I grew up in Detroit. 50 years old. I was born in 1975. It wasn't until the late 90s when I was in the Marine Corps and left Michigan that I found out we were the only city that had Devil's Night. Nobody had any idea what I was talking about. Here's something a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of those fires that were started were burning down abandoned drug houses."
Yeah.
Because that's when the crack epidemic took over Detroit.
Yeah.
So we were getting rid of problem houses and structures in our neighborhoods that were turning them bad. I think that just needs to be known, not defending it, but there was a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can talk to that. So I actually had, I still do. I have a family that lives in the Detroit area. When I was a child, I spent a lot of my time in Michigan. I was in East Jordan, which is not close to Detroit, but I also spent a lot of time in Westland and in Taylor, Michigan, which is outside of Detroit. And I'm a Detroit Tigers fan. I grew up as a child as a Detroit Tigers fan. So I went to the big white elephant, the old Tiger Stadium. I mean, this thing was just huge, monster stadium. One of the oldest in the league before it was torn down. In fact, up until you had Fenway, Wrigley Field, and then at that time Tiger Stadium, they were the three oldest stadiums in MLB. So I would go through Westland through Wayne, right into Detroit, and so I saw it with my own eyes.
Roll up the windows.
Yeah, it was like, ooh, man, this is it. This is frightening. So that being said, though, and there's a lot of cool things in Detroit. I've now gone back. Yeah. I've gone to Comerica Park and I've watched the Detroit Tigers, play and mostly lose. They've been doing better. I mean, they did make it to the playoffs this year. I was hopeful, but they did get bounced in the first round. I've been to the new Detroit Lions stadium. Detroit's got a lot of cool things. I mean, it's in a cool area. It's on the lake there. You got just the history of automotion. Automotive industries coming out of Detroit, Michigan. But at the end of the day, man, it was big time problematic. And we weren't kidding when we talked about Devil's Night on that episode. That I stopped into Detroit fire departments at different times. I talked to them about what Devil's Night was like for them. And it was literally just load and reload, load and reload, load and reload hose. And we acknowledged that there was many fires that this person commenting is saying that, yeah, they were shit boxes. They were shithole houses that were burning down. And we've had plenty of those in departments that I've worked for, where same thing, you burn up 10 of those houses and at the end of the day, you might have a house loss value of like $80,000. I don't know, but it's, it is urban blight and it's rejuvenation and revitalization. And sometimes it comes at the hands of just people getting it done. I knew about Devil's Night as a kid. I knew that it existed. I knew that it was a thing. It was the night before Halloween. So I knew that there was that existed. But Detroit Fire Department and the city of Detroit, they took it to a whole nother catastrophic level. So good job.
All right. So this next one comes from, great username, Optimal Dooku. So this is a comment on TikTok in response to the Frighteners and the Firefighter episode. He says, our station bunk room is haunted. Years ago, we had a member die in their bunk after a fire. Since then, we see shadows in the dark, hear whispering, and feel someone tap you to try and wake you up. People have also seen it walk past our watch desk or into the bathroom. I've had it whisper near me when I was falling asleep, then touch my foot. Scared the crap out of me. And then he got a reply from Jake that says, damn, dude, senior guys won't even stop after death.
I did see that one. I did see that. I thought, oh, that's brutal.
That's so good. That's so good.
That's brutal. Good comment there. I don't even know how to feel about if you had one of your coworkers, one of your fellow firefighters, and they die at the firehouse. I know what happens, and I mean, certainly it definitely happens on the fireground, and we know that there are firefighters that have cardiac arrest right there on the scene, and then it's lights out. But in the firehouse and the station itself, where you live and you eat and you sleep, and you're just, it's like you're home away from home, and that it's hard to think of it happening that way. So I can see how that would be tough for those that are left there to see, you come into work and, that person's not using their locker anymore. They're not sleeping in that bed anymore. They're not sleeping in the claimed recliner that they say is theirs on their shift. So I don't know. It's got to be tough.
Yeah. So here's the final one that I pulled. I pulled this one for a reason. This was a comment on one of our shorts on YouTube. The short was Paramedics Saving Lives, the Emotional Toll of Overdoses. And user, and this is like, it's typical, user-EM2WH6VQ1L. It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, right?
Leaves the comment.
Is that a VIN number?
Right, totally. Leaves the comment. Should have just let him finish his thought. You cut him off and said something honestly no one was thinking about. Not that it's not true, but it wasn't like, boom, mind blown, like you thought it was. And all we really wanted to hear him finish was to hear him finish his thought. All right, at user EM2WH6VQ1L, go watch the whole damn episode. Look, guys, these are shorts. We clip the shorts off of an entire podcast episode, and they are there every week, and they're there for you to watch. So if you see something that you're like, oh, I wonder how that conversation ended, we're not hiding it. It's there. Go watch it. Go listen to it.
Yeah. That is our public service announcement for the show. Please don't take all of our content in one dose on TikTok shorts and things of that nature. We enjoy the engagement on any of our platforms to include TikTok and Instagram, Reels, anything like that. Engage us. But if you're wanting to get the whole picture, you probably need to tune in to our episodes on YouTube. You don't have to listen to it all in one shot, but sometimes there's a lot of things that we leave in the episodes scattered throughout to make you think about things and be engaging. And with that said, we really want to thank you for being a part of the original firefighter community. Thank you for always thinking of your fellow firefighters when they are hurt, injured. We do want to just do one last thing. There was just a very, just a kind of a terrible event that happened in Georgia. This was in Wrightsville, Georgia. This happened October 27th, just a few days ago. Chad, I'm sorry if we get the last name a little bit wrong, but his name appears to be Chad Wolms, a firefighter with the Wrightsville, Georgia Fire Department. And why we're bringing him up here at the end is that we started the episode by thinking about some firefighters back home that had been injured in a duplex fire. We talked about the firefighters in New Jersey. We gave a shout out to those in Massachusetts for making just great rescues at that assisted living fire. But we just wanted to just take a minute and just highlight that this individual, this firefighter, and also a Wrightsville police officer, Jay Hood, they were both attacked by a sword attacker. And this kind of thing, I could go down a rabbit hole with this. But any kind of violence, gun violence, knife, sword, any kind of violence is terrible, and we wish it to stop, and we wish for our society to get a hold of themselves. But we want to give our thoughts to firefighter Chad Wolms. of the Wrightsville, Georgia Fire Department. He was very seriously injured during this attack. Apparently, he did get receive a severed hand and a left thumb were both severed during the attack. And thankfully, during surgery, those limbs were reattached, and I'm sure that he's going to have a long road to recovery. There is a GoFundMe page that has been established to support his recovery. So if you can give to that effort, please do so. So we just want to give a good feeling and shout out to firefighter Chad Wilms of the Wrightsville, Georgia Fire Department, and also to thank the police officer Jay Hood for protecting him and for taking out that aggressor. Good job on all that front. With that being said, this is the Original Firefighter Podcast. Go to our website, originalfirefighter.com, pick up some merch. You can support us, and always make sure that you're out there taking care of yourself and be safe.
This has been the Original Firefighter Podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Tune in each week on Wednesdays for a new episode. Like and follow us on all social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel today.